folks. This is An Old Sinner Saved by Grace. Pastor Mike Hoggart, pastor of Bethel Church in Festus, Missouri, and head of prophetic research ministry with another Watchman video broadcast. You know, I mean that thing, an old sinner saved by grace. I don't think I'm better than anybody. I don't think that I'm some exalted great. Why, everybody wants to be like Michael. I guarantee you, you don't want to be like me. Good to be with you folks this week. I'm back. Some of you said I'd never make it, but I'm back anyway. Glad to be here. We had a good time down in Van Buren, Arkansas last weekend. I heard some good preaching, and I need to hear some good preaching. I need preached at every now and then is what I need. And I asked the Lord to do that, and He gave it to me. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that God brought me back safely, and here today to bring you some things that I saw coming here a while back. And let me just run down the program for you today. We've got the Supreme Court doing stupidly. Oh, we've got the setup. We have, I'm going to talk about the setup for biometric ID cards. What's going to set us up to get us there? And you might be surprised on that. What is setting us up for a mark of the beast system where, you know, like the elite Illuminati control all the banking in the world? We're looking at that. And I've got some stuff on BP. You'll want to see this, I promise you. But let's start off at the beginning here. Our Supreme Court acting stupidly. Constitution takes hit from Supreme Court. The fundamentals of the U.S. Constitution possibly have been shoved one step closer to irrelevance by the U.S. Supreme Court, which yesterday cited an international treaty that has not been adopted in the U.S. as support for its opinion. The issue is raising alarms for those who have been fighting the trend toward adopting international standards for American jurisprudence rather than relying on a strict application of the Constitution. It is bad enough for the Supreme Court to engage in judicial activism, said Michael Ferris of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. It is far worse when the justices employ international law in supporting of their far-reaching edicts. We have not ratified the UN Child's Rights Treaty. Its provisions should not be finding their way into Supreme Court decisions, he said. Roger Kiska, legal counsel for the Alliance Defense Fund, who is based in Europe, said the Supreme Court's use of an unadopted precedent completely overlooks the checks and balances system that is established by the U.S. Constitution. The Graham v. Florida decision dealt with whether young people could be sentenced to life prison terms if they haven't killed the victims of their crimes. It arose in the case of Terrence Graham, implicated in armed robberies when he was 16 and 17. Now, he is now 23 and is in a Florida prison for life. Justice Anthony Kennedy, who frequently swings to the liberal side of the court, said such life sentences are not allowed. The state has denied him any chance to later demonstrate that he is fit to rejoin society based solely on a non-homicide crime that he committed while he was a child in the eyes of the law. Kennedy's majority opinion said this the Eighth Amendment does not permit. Now here's what he wrote. Now this is what we were warning about last year when Obama started bringing all these people and all these czars and all these advisors, one of which, I can't remember who it was espousing the idea that we as the United States and the judges of the United States should look to other countries' laws to see how they might work well here when making judicial decisions. That is 100% contrary to the legal basis of our country right now. We are American citizens. Our laws are our laws. If we wanted other people's laws, we would pass their laws in our country. And so we warned about this, and here it is right here. The Supreme Court is already looking to other nations to get approval for our laws. Here's what Kennedy wrote. We also notice petitioner and his amici emphasize that Article 37A of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Stop right here. I had people sending me stuff even back before we started this broadcast, and I'd started doing research, years ago, on the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And I actually read part of this thing, and it was absolutely ridiculous what the UN says children should have access to, and what children should be allowed to do and not to do under this treaty. And those of us who believe in corporal, biblical discipline or punishment according to the Scriptures, those of us who believe in that, saw that treaty as a threat to our rights and our obligations as Christian parents to train our children in the way that God tells us to train them. In other words, the UN Treaty to the Rights of the Child would have outlawed and banned corporal punishment for children, would have done away with it, would have made you a criminal for doing what the Bible told you to do. And so I've been against this thing, and so our country never, ever, ever adopted this as a treaty. We never voted on it. We never said, yeah, that's a good idea. We want that here. Our congressmen haven't approved it. Nobody says this is a good idea for our country. Well, nobody with a brain says this is a good idea for our country. And yet now we have a Supreme Court Justice of the United States, a Supreme Court Justice, someone who swears an oath, an allegiance to the Constitution of the United States as the supreme law of the land. Their job, their one job, okay? We don't hire the Supreme Court people to go out and dig ditches or build houses or shoot guns. Their one job is to adjudicate the laws or the cases in this country that may or may not be, here it is, constitutional. And so here is Justice Kennedy writing concerning the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child. He says, November 20th, 1989, ratified by every nation except the United States and Somalia. Now I want to stop right there, okay? I don't know if you know anything about Somalia, okay? They're the pirates. Arr, okay? The Somalians are the pirates. They're the people. The Somalia has no stable government right now. And if you go to Somalia, you do so at the expense of your own life. If you go to Somalia, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be slaughtered in the street somewhere. I mean, that's Somalia. Of course, that could be Chicago, too, for all that matters. But anyway, this is what I got out of this. Here is Justice Kennedy. And supposedly, we call him Your Honor. There's no honor in this statement. He just compared the United States of America with Somalia. That's what he just did. So he said, ratified by every nation, except the United States and Somalia, it prohibits the imposition of life imprisonment without possibility of release for offenses committed by persons below 18 years of age. Kennedy's opinion continued. The court has treated the laws and practices of other nations and international agreements as relevant to the Eighth Amendment, not because those norms are binding or controlling, but because the judgment of the world's nations that a particular sentencing practice is inconsistent with basic principles of decency demonstrates that the court's rationale has respected reasoning to support it. So in other words, we don't think that this is right because there's a treaty out there, that a bunch of other nations decided that they like, that our country hasn't ratified. Let's see, who am I being paid by? Our country, they decided that our country didn't like it, and yet we like it, or I like it, and I'm going to base my decision based upon somebody else's law. And I'll tell you, we have way too much. The seeds are growing in this country that we are facing a new America. An America that's not based upon the Bible, and an America that's not based upon the rule of the laws generally agreed upon and accepted by the citizens of this country. We're dealing with a new America that is global, that looks to the other worlds, that looks to the other nations, the other kingdoms, the other peoples. We are forgetting our heritage, and we're forgetting the very laws upon which our nation was based. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 5. God told His people, ye shall therefore keep my statutes. Not the statutes of the Moabites. Don't worry about what they say. Not the statutes of the Canaanites. Don't even go there with me. In fact, God said, just stay away from the Canaanites altogether. He said, you shall therefore keep my statutes and judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am the Lord. And I will tell you, if we're seeing something going on, we are seeing the death of the United States of America as you and I know it. God promises, and if we just exclude every other stupid thing that's going on in this world right now, God promises that when we walk away from His statutes and the things that we were established on and the foundations are being destroyed in this country. And if we walk away from those in this country, God said, if a man do, he shall live in them. If we'll keep the statutes of God, we'll live as a result of it. If we would just keep the Constitution, America would live. But I will tell you, there are all too many people out there who want to see the death and the destruction of the United States of America. Why? Because you cannot create a new world order as long as the old world order represented by this country still exists. They want it to die. Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 2, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee, watch this, to be a peculiar people unto Himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth. So here's what God is saying. He said, I will take you and I will make you peculiar, and you will be above all the nations of the earth. That sounds like America. That's what God did here, because at one time the law of God was supreme in the hearts of Americans. Here's what's happened. We are no longer, we say, we want to be like everybody else. We want to be like the French. Oh, come on. We want to be like the European Union. Why? We think China has a good role model there for us to follow. And so we follow their rules. And God said, I have designed you better than that. I made you peculiar. I made you different. The whole world at one time, watch this, the whole world looked where? They looked to America to be the light of justice, of prudence, of common sense, of religious freedom, and of Bible Christianity. They looked to America for that. And now America turns to all these lesser nations. And I'm not knocking anybody we have people in the United Kingdom, Netherlands, and France, and Germany, and I mean all these, I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying God did a good thing here. And now our country is looking to Europe. They're looking to everybody else saying, maybe we should be like them. Maybe we should get health care in our country, like Canada has, or like Great Britain has, where you can't get surgery if you need it. Maybe we should do that. And that's what we're doing right now. God made us peculiar. Deuteronomy 18:9, when thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. He said, don't follow them. Don't go after what everybody else is doing. You be my peculiar people, and your laws are based upon my word, and the precedents that you set should be based on common sense and the laws that you have and my word. That's what God said. And I'll tell you, if we discard everything else in this world that is going to spell the death of the United States of America, it could very well be that. Obama clamors for federal fix to immigration woes. I won't read all this story, but now Obama's looking like he's coming out and saying, "Oh my goodness, look at what George W. Bush did with this country in 8 years." I mean, let me do it like Obama would do it. Look at what George W. Bush has done with our country. No, back. No, go up. No, back down a little bit. Yeah, there. Our immigration problem is a mess. That's how Barack Obama would do it. I don't have teleprompters. I just have sheets of paper. All right? So Obama's coming out now, making it look like that this immigration problem, he inherited this thing. And I want you to get this. Because there have been people in this country that have been screaming for years. I mean, just screaming for years at our government saying, we have a lot of people coming in off, the borders, like, from Mexico and from other countries, and they're sliding in through Mexico. By the way, have nothing against Hispanics, Mexicans at all. If you want to come to this country legally, come into this country legally. This is the great America. It used to be the great America where everyone could find opportunity. That's because God blessed this nation. And if you want to come in this country legally and move next door to my house, I will invite you over for dinner. I will invite you to our secret broadcast compound at 1233 American Legion Drive. But we know for a fact that our borders are leaking like a sieve. We also know that Al-Qaeda is sending people into this country. How? Through Mexico. And so for years now, we've had a border problem. People screamed at George W. Bush saying, would you please do something to lock down the borders of our country so that people have to come in here the right way? That's just common sense, people. It's not racist. And so, but nobody did anything about it. And did you ever wonder why nobody did anything about it? I have a suspicion. So here is Barack Obama saying, man, we have got a mess on our hands. And oh, by the way, you people in Arizona, you're stupid for trying to lock down your borders, for using your police people to do their job. You're stupid down there. And everybody's boycotting Arizona and calling them racist and calling them pigs and everything else. And I tell you, I support what Arizona has done. I support it because I'm an American. And because I'm a Christian. Yes, I have sympathy for people, but come in the right way, for crying out loud. So anyway, Obama said, oh, we've got a mess down there, and I don't like what Arizona did. We need a federal plan is what we need. Now, I'll tell you this, okay? I live in Missouri, you know, the heartland of mid-America, the heart of the nation. Missouri doesn't really have a problem securing its borders. You know, we're not trying to keep the Okies out. We're not trying to keep the Kansans out, although you can have Kansas City if you want. We don't want it in Missouri. We're not trying to keep the Iowans out or the Illinoisans or the Arkansans, because I'm an Arkansan by birth. We're not trying to keep the Kentuckians out or the Tennessee people out. We're not trying to keep anybody out like that. Did I miss anybody? Nebraska. We're not trying to keep Nebraska out either. But Arizona's trying to keep illegal aliens coming, and so Barack Obama, typical federal government style, says the states, they should not be handling this. This is a national affair. No, it's a state affair, Mr. President. So Obama says we need a federal fix on this. Let's see, what can we do? I know, I've got it. Dems spark alarm with call for national ID card. And planned by Senate Democratic leaders to reform the nation's immigration laws ran into strong opposition from civil liberty defenders before lawmakers even unveiled it Thursday. This is dated April 30th of this year. Democratic leaders have proposed requiring every worker in the nation. Now, stop right here, okay? You know and I know that they're not going to really require every worker. That those who are in this country illegally, they're still going to work and they're still going to get by, and it's not going to fix a problem. So what is this national? And oh, by the way, this national ID card is going to have biometric information such as a fingerprint, but I don't think that it's really going to be your fingerprint. I think it's going to be your deoxyribonucleic acid print. Is what I'm pretty sure it's going to be. Biometric card for every American citizen worker in the nation, so that no man might buy or sell unless you had this wonder card from the federal government. This is a national ID card is what it is. And oh, look, whose name's on it. The proposal is one of the biggest differences between the newest immigration reform proposal and legislation crafted by late Senator Edward Kennedy and John McCain. You see, if we would have got John McCain as president, we would have got there. We'd have just got there like on a wheelchair, a lot slower, okay? The national ID program would be titled the Believe System, an acronym for, boy, I tell you what, that has new age connotations written all over it, and an acronym for biometric enrollment, locally stored information, and electronic verification of employment. I think somebody sat down for hours and tried to make something out of the word believe, is what I think. It would require all workers across the nation to carry a card with a digital encryption key that would have to match work authorization databases. Everybody's in a database, everybody's in a system. Now, I think that the powers that be, and I'm not necessarily saying George Bush or Barack Obama, I'm saying the people behind them. Okay? Make sure they're not behind me. The people that are just checking, okay? the people that are behind them are the ones who I think are who have let this immigration thing and our borders leaking. They're the ones who have let this thing go for so long and have tied the hands of people that really wanted to do something about it. They did so for a reason, because you remember Baphomet, right? And let's see, we have this video here. Where is it? Somebody took my copy of Baphomet. Anyway, got a new video out called Baphomet, the God of Transformation, and I show you the symbolism of the God of the Knights Templar, showing you exactly how things, not just what's going to happen, but how it's going to happen. And in order to bring in a new world order, you have to dissolve the old one. And so they're the ones who are creating this monstrosity of hundreds of millions of illegal workers in this country. They're the ones that allowed it to happen when all we had to do was enforce the laws that we had on the books already. But no. Now we have a crisis. We have a healthcare crisis. We have a bad crisis. Got to do something about it. Now we have an immigration crisis, and now all of a sudden we have a solution. We have a fix for this problem. It's showing up in the banking system. Here is a screen capture I did this morning of the Drudge Report when I came in this morning. Stocks dropped most in a year on economic reports. European debt crisis. Let's see here. Confusion over regulation moves trigger sell-offs. Called the perfect storm. World order, U.S., Britain, and Germany to discuss debt crisis. The euro as we know it is dead. I mean, it's another big banking catastrophe. The FDIC reports problem banks at 775, or 1/10 of all U.S. banks, were on the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp's list of problem institutions in the first quarter, as bad loans in the commercial real estate market weighed on bank balance sheets. All right, so this is what I call a setup. I like a good joke. Okay, I like to tell I can't bring any to mind right now, but I like to tell a good joke, especially one that kind of tricks people, all right? And to every good joke, there's always a setup. You got to set people up first. And by the way, if you watch guys like Creflo Dollar and if you watch these guys, they are masters of manipulation, and they will spend, in a 30-minute program, they'll spend 20 minutes setting you up to swallow the false doctrine they're going to give. You watch their practices, people. But I'm telling you, this whole banking crisis is a setup. If we would let commercial capitalism, which is a bad word now, it's almost like saying some cuss word somewhere, if we would let that fix itself, it would. If we would let the people of this country fix the problems, they would fix the problems. It's called innovation. But here we have these major crises all over the world, and oh my goodness, you know what? We just happen to have a solution for that. So that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Speaking of marks, one of our astute watchers sent me this. All right, let's see here. Let's get Babel Conspiracy out here. Here's a DVD, digital versatile disc, and this is old-fashioned. Okay, this is like way old-fashioned technology here. It's called a book. Okay, not a Kindle, not an e-book. This is a book, and you can get that from our ministry. It's called The Babel Conspiracy, 9/11, 2012, and beyond. And there are occult signatures, and God is helping me to read symbols and to study things and to see things and get it. And you continue to pray for this ministry and pray for me in my study that we would be allowed to keep doing that, not for us, not for our glory, but for you to send out a warning. But I'm getting better at spotting and judging symbolisms. I remember the first time I started reading Morals and Dogma, I went, man, this is stupid. What was he, on drugs when he wrote this? Well, he might have been, but I definitely believe he's under the influence of a spirit. And now I'm getting to where when I read it or go through it, I'm looking at it and I'm going, yeah, okay, I know what that means. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, sure, Oh, yeah, I know what you're not saying there, okay? Here's one here. What is the generative number? Answer, in the divinity, it is the unit. See, I'm just straying here. In created things, the number 2, because the divinity 1 engenders 2, and in created things 2 engenders 1. What is the most majestic number? Answer, 3, because it denotes the triple divine essence. That's the triple helix. So I read this and I'm going, I get this. Woo-hoo! All right. So anyway, one of our astute watchers sent me The old and the new logo for British Petroleum, BP. You know, the people that, had this well blow up on April 20th, the 110th day a year, that's 11 times 10. That specifically points you to the Tower of Babel, Genesis chapter 11. The number 11 in the Bible is the number for chaos, confusion. Now remember that word chaos also means the pit, the abyss, the deep part of the earth. Where did they get oil from? Hang on to that. So April 20th, 110th day of the year, this oil rig blows up. And you remember the previous story that we did on this. 11 people died. Now you have to believe in spiritual conspiracies in order for you to understand that this is how it works. So one of our watchers said, Pastor Mike, take a look at, here's the old BP logo. It's just BP. And now we have a new logo. And I'm telling you, when I was down in Van Buren last weekend, on the way down there, we had about 7 hours of driving, and on the way down there, I'm just looking at billboards and signs. And I'm just looking now at symbols. And isn't it amazing that now all of a sudden, all of these companies and corporations that have been around for years have started changing their logos now. Have you noticed? Start looking, because you're going to see it. And you're going to see elements of things that we have talked about on this broadcast. You're going to see elements of occult knowledge inside those company logos. And it's the same thing with the BP symbol. Now the new BP symbol, it looks like a flower. Isn't that pretty? It looks like a flower, doesn't it? 4 colors actually. It looks like a flower here, doesn't it? It's actually a lotus. Now, if you know anything about the New Age, you know that in the New Age movement, the lotus means everything. In fact, here's a picture of a lotus, and here's a picture of a woman in the lotus position. Now, she is a practitioner of yoga. You know, that stuff that all these church people are doing now and saying, oh, I heard Jesus when I got into this yoga trance. They're practicing yoga now, which is nothing more than a New Age Eastern mysticism way of getting in touch with familiar spirits. That's what yoga is all about. Listen, they're not hearing God. They're not hearing from Jesus in there. They're hearing from familiar spirits, masquerading spirits, like the one who masqueraded as Samuel back in the days of Saul when he went to visit Endor, the witch of Endor. But this lotus symbol, in fact, I got a copy of a book called A Dictionary of Symbols, and here's what this book says. The lotus is considered in India as the center point where Brahma dwells. Now, Brahma is a picture of the Antichrist. Now, I want you to get that. Brahma dwells and as the visible manifestation of his occult, which means secret, activity. So let's go back to this logo here. This logo then would represent things that are occulted or things that are a secret. In other words, Brahma is in the center here and he's hiding inside of here. I want you to get that, because all of this symbolism has everything to do with this oil well disaster and all of this stuff. All right? Now, the lotus is related, according to the Dictionary of Symbols, is related to other flower symbols such as the rose and the fleur de lis. Okay, the fleur de lis. There's your triple helix right there. And all of these flower symbols, and I won't go into all the symbolism of it, but all these flower symbols are symbols of what's called the divine feminine or the sacred feminine. Now, the interesting thing is, and we know this from our study on the Da Vinci Code, let's bring out Dan Brown here. When Dan Brown wrote the Da Vinci Code, he introduced some concepts that were not widely known, but now are. In fact, everybody knows about them. The idea of what's called the sacred feminine. In other words, the woman is the goddess. And we need to restore the sacred feminine in politics and in business, and we need to restore the sacred feminine in the church. And that is exactly, my friend, what's going on. The Bible describes this sacred feminine as mystery. Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. She is the antithesis of God. She is the total opposite of God. Whereas God reveals through the pages of the Scripture, she, as the lotus, conceals. She's hiding. Who's she hiding? She's hiding who's inside of her, deep inside of her. She's hiding the Antichrist who's in a pit, who's in the abyss, who's in the chaos right now. Now, here's an interesting... Now it's starting to make sense to me. Because several years ago, when I was doing some comparisons between the King James and the NIV, I happened upon this verse. The NIV says in Job chapter 40, verse 21, under the lotus plants he lies, hidden among the reeds in the marsh. The lotuses conceal him in their shadow. That is exactly. Let me pull this back out here. What the Dictionary of Symbols said, the lotus is considered in India as the center where Brahma dwells, okay, and as the visible manifestation of his occult or secret activity. Man, I knew that thing was corrupt. And so we see that it is a concealing thing. There's something going on here that you and I can't see. And so let me just say this, okay? So let's get to what we're getting at here. Let's say that there are powers that be that are using this situation, and I believe wholeheartedly they are. I think the end result has yet to be seen. But let's say that there's an organization, there are powers that be, the Illuminati, that's using this BP oil thing as some sort of diabolical plan to bring in a new world order. I could believe that, I really could. What I don't have is internal secret documents from BP. I don't have a letter from, the Antichrist Pope, the Black Pope in the Vatican, writing BP officials saying, blow their rig up. I mean, we don't have that. Probably never will. But what we do have is the language of symbols, and we have the revealer of all of these symbols, our trusty King James Bible. And so here it is, this lotus idea, and it's concealing in relation to these other flowers such as the rose. Now, this phrase that Dan Brown talked about in the Da Vinci Code, a phrase called sub rosa. You see a picture of it here, sub rosa, means under the roses. And he explains that anything that is done under the roses is going to have a secret to it, a mystery. It's quiet. It's to be concealed. Rosalind Chapel, which is has all these occult symbolisms in it and all this stuff going on, where Dan Brown in the Da Vinci Code said that there's a big secret lying buried underneath it. It's sub rosa. The ceiling of Rosalind Chapel is just covered with roses, so everything that goes on in there is sub rosa. Now, back to the BP symbol. Not only is it a lotus, and this Dictionary of Symbols said that when you're looking at a lotus, you count the number of petals, because the number of petals on the lotus will also indicate a numerical significance. So guess what I did? I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I did that, okay? And it didn't surprise me. There are 72 leaves on the BP lotus flower that's concealing the Antichrist. Now remember, let's go back now to something else that happened on our side of the world, called these two earthquakes, the one in the Dominican Republic and the one in Haiti, and the other one that happened down in Chile. Remember, they happened, significant, terrible earthquakes. The amount of damage was just horrendous. Captured everybody's attention, and they happened exactly 46 days apart. And if you have not seen that yet, go back to the 2 Watchman broadcasts that we did on that, and we have them labeled that we're dealing with the earthquakes on there. Go back and watch that. They were in a perfectly straight line, one from another. Both of them happened, here it is, on the 72nd meridian, or line of longitude going north and south. Crossing them is the equator, showing the as above, so below symbol. And all of this, the number 72, of course, Manly Hall says that there are 72 stones in the unfinished pyramid that brings man to illumination. And you see the caption there, Anno Equiptus Novus Ordo Seclorum. So it is about bringing in a new world order. That's what that number 72 represents. In the Kabbalah, you have this concept of the 72 names of God. Here they are listed here. You can't read those. But the 72 names of God, in which if you pronounce all these in the right way, you are invoking the power of God and invoking or provoking or bringing man into a new world order. That's what that number 72 has to do with. And I want you to get this idea of, and I'm going to show you a picture of this here. Here is the major disaster now of what's going on. Not only did this oil rig blow up and kill 11 people, but what is it doing right now as I'm speaking? What's it doing right now? Okay? We have this thing that's in the bowels of the earth, underneath, in a pit, in the chaos, which means the abyss. It's down there, it's hidden, and it's concealed. And what's happening? And where's it happening? It's coming up from the abyss, from a pit down below the earth, and rising up where? Let me just read this to you. Okay, I think there's a picture going on here. Revelation chapter 13. Here it is. Here it is. And I stood upon the sand of the what? The sea. And I saw a beast. And what was that beast doing? Rising up out of the sea. And that's what's going on right now. Let's keep our eyes open and let's keep watching this. By the way, let me just share this with you, then we're going to move on. Oil is a symbol for anointing a king. Okay? Then thou shalt take up the anointing oil and pour it upon his head and anoint him. Who's that king? He's the king, I believe, Revelation chapter 9, he is the king of the bottomless pit called Abaddon and Apollyon. Destruction, the destroyer, is coming. We were talking last year about this new theme park that Disney was going to open up called the Harry Potter theme park. It's become a reality now, and I'll tell you, millions and millions of kids and families from all over the world are going to go to this thing and get indoctrinated into witchcraft. That's what they're going to happen. But, you know, we see symbols. And I want you to watch this commercial very quickly. And I want you to see if you see, what do you see what I see? I want you to watch this thing, and then I'll point some things out. I'll show you what it is you probably missed. Take a look.
Coming this spring, you can truly be part of Harry Potter's world, where magic becomes real and excitement awaits at every turn. Explore the wizarding world of Harry Potter, a world of magical new adventures only at Universal Orlando Resort, where you can be courageous, be outrageous, be extraordinary.
All right, first things first, okay? A broom, okay? Without being too graphic, here's a picture of a witch and a broom. The broom is the symbol for the male. Okay, I'll show you the picture again. Just take a look at it. So we have witches receive their power. The witch's power, they say, a Wiccan's power is received, and witches really do use brooms in their rituals. By the way, this is interesting because, and I think this is why God said this. God said in the book of Isaiah, He said, "I will sweep them with the besom of destruction." I think everything's in the Bible. I really do. I will sweep them with the besom of destruction. A besom was a broom. And here they are using a broom, and they say that they use this broom to generate sexual energy, and that's where they get their occult powers from. I want you to get this, because this is like sons of God and daughters of men together. So that's the first symbol I wanted to show you. So here are all these Harry Potter and this broomstick. And then we have the Gothic cathedrals. And if you remember from our teaching from the Da Vinci Code, if you don't have that video, you need to get that video. Our teaching on the Da Vinci Code, we show you that the doorways of these Gothic cathedrals represent what's called the mandorla. They are the fusion of two things together. And basically a mandorla, the word mandorla is Italian for almond shape. And the mandorla basically is a symbol. It's a picture of the female organ, is what it is. I mean, that's what that is. When people worship this image, that's what they're doing. If you ever get a chance to see this movie called What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr., and I caught this because here it is, Robin Williams is going to descend into hell so he can save his wife. Okay? And he's dead already, but he doesn't realize he's dead. He has to have his eyes open. And so Cuba Gooding Jr. takes his fingers and draws a mandorla symbol and pushes on it into a wall, and he has to go through that mandorla symbol. Now he's born again. Okay? I mean, you just think about the symbolism. So And by the way, this is not Jesus, this is the Antichrist, okay, in the Mandorla. So I want you to watch this symbolism again real quick in this clip and take a look, just take a look at it.
Oh, the wizarding world of Harry Potter. A world of magical new adventures only at Universal Orlando Resort, where you can be...
I mean, that's like perverted, okay? That's just, there's something, listen, the God of this world is lascivious, and is bringing lasciviousness into the minds of our children, and it's bringing it in a lot of cases into the church. This Watchman broadcast, we have a new sponsor. We have a sponsor for our broadcast. This Watchman video broadcast is brought to you by the new Ford Mustang. Take a look.
I wanna see you in the mountain. I wanna see you when the breaking day is sounding. You gotta go, it's alright. And when I get the same reaction, I know this time is gonna get some satisfaction. You gotta go.
Okay, Ford's not really paying me, to run their commercials for them. Okay, I wouldn't take the money anyway. But you get that, don't you? Okay, transformation, a whole new breed. Think of the imagery that's being projected at people. Here's a new article. This came out last year. This was about the electronics deal last year, 2009. We are becoming a new species. We are becoming Homo evolutus, which basically means that mankind is on his way now to becoming a whole new breed. If you remember our study on chaos and all of this stuff, and the whole Todd Bentley thing, and the what was it? I can't remember the thing that we were talking about, but the whole Todd Bentley thing, and all these guys, Rick Joyner, are talking about how God's going to bring in a new breed of people on the earth. You watch this stuff, because this is what's going on right now. And it all has to do with evolution. And here's an article from WorldNet Daily very quickly. Was great-great-great-great-great-Gramps Neanderthal. New study reveals ancient DNA falls with variation of present-day humans. And I won't read the article. You can get it online. But it basically says that, they're able to, like reformulate some of the Neanderthal DNA. And from what it looks like, their markers. And from what it looks like, Neanderthal DNA was pretty much like ours. That's because they didn't exist, people. There is no such thing as evolution. But they want you to believe in evolution, because if we came from a lower form to this form, we're going to go to the new form, a higher level. Here's an article that deals with that. Pig sushi. Diabetes trial brings xenotransplant hope. 4 more people with diabetes will soon be implanted with high doses of living pig cells coated in seaweed, bringing the prospect of a widespread animal-to-human transplant a step closer. I just think it's funny they call it a pig sushi. And really, all I'm going to say about this is, what animal do Jews not eat? They don't eat pigs. You know why? God said they're unclean. Now, dietary laws, Jesus said, Peter, arise, kill, and eat. Those dietary laws have been restricted in the New Testament. I don't want your argument. I'm just saying that's what they are. So that justifies that piece of sausage I had this morning. Pork sausage. I love pork sausage. So anyway, but an unclean animal, and God said not to partake of it. There is no way in the world that somebody's going to inject me with pig DNA. I guarantee you I'm not going to let it happen. But beyond that, listen, folks, we're getting scary out there. Here's an article just today, and somebody called me, wanted to know if I had this, and I said, yeah. Scientists in the U.S. have succeeded in developing the first living cell to be controlled entirely by synthetic DNA. The researchers constructed a bacterium's genetic software and transplanted it into a host cell. The resulting microbe then looked and behaved like the species dictated by the synthetic DNA. I want to tell you something. If I was a scientist and I was smart enough to do this, I hope I would be smart enough not to do it. Because I'm telling you, you know what they're doing, don't you? They're like writing their own Bible. They're writing their own DNA, and they're saying, it worked exactly the way we thought it was going to work. I'm telling you, it's just like we're creating stuff that we're not smart enough to know exactly what it'll all do. And boy, I tell you what, we live in a different world. All this genetic stuff. Here's a triple helix symbol. Somebody sent me this, and I thought, well, I'll run with this. I'll use this. Dolce hotels and restaurants. Dolce means sweet or comfortable. It says meet with inspiration. Now, the triple helix logo here, you have three concentric. In fact, if you look very close, if you just stare deeply at this little symbol here, you will see a triple helix in here. You'll see like a triquetra in there. Three circles fused together. And these people all making all sorts of little Masonic hand gestures in here. Here is another thing from their page, Dolce Hotels and Resorts. Take a look at the guy standing in front of the X chromosome pouring water. That's the symbol of Aquarius, folks. That's where we're headed. The age of Aquarius is where we're headed. I'm telling you, start looking at logos and brandings and things like that, because they're going to reveal to you exactly, the more we see, I think the closer we're getting to what's going on. Here's another ministry, White Dove Ministry. These are a Todd Bentley-like Kansas City Prophets type deal. And I was looking at the article, but I was looking at the symbolism. By the way, everybody says, well, a dove's a symbol of the Holy Spirit. A dove is called a Columbine, Columbine High School, Columbia, District of Columbia, the Columbia Space Shuttle. The dove is an occult symbol for Mystery Babylon the Great, the other spirit. That's what that dove is a symbol of. So here we have White Dove Ministries, and I will tell you that since they're not preaching the true gospel of Jesus Christ, that dove symbol is not a symbol for the Holy Ghost. It's a symbol for Mystery Babylon the Great. But I want you to notice, here we have the sun image, which is Osiris, the sun god. And we have, I want you to notice there on this eagle's, which is not even a dove, it's an eagle. This eagle saying with three things pointing one way and three things pointing another. That is the fusion of opposites. Notice they're pointing in different directions. You have 3 and 3, just like a hexagram. That makes 6, so that makes a number 33. But here's this is from the International House of Praise. Here's the article that I wanted to get to, where they talked about the verse down below. They mentioned Bob Jones and some of these other IHOP people. He says, these were the seeds or souls of the end-time generation, a generation, watch this now, with a special DNA designed for a unique destiny. I'm telling you that this stuff is getting people to go stand in line to receive a mark on the right hand or forehead. What has been sown into these souls is a hunger for God and a thirst for the supernatural. We're beginning to see this emerging, like that oil coming up, that's emerging. We're beginning to see this emerging in the raw faith of the youth, as seen at the call gatherings in Lou Engle's 24/7 prayer internship program in Washington, D.C. They talk about the 3 baptisms, 1, 2, 3, triple helix. Let's see here. In the years to come, it will not just be nice or exciting to live in the supernatural. It will be necessary for our survival. According to Neville Johnson's prophetic word. Let's see, I don't know what book of the Bible he wrote. Outer court Christians, listen, I got to stop right here. This is a setup. This is a setup. It's telling you that there are second and third class Christians that are not as good as the other ones. That's Freemasonry, folks. That's the occult. I tell you what, I'm getting a little too excited about this stuff. Outer court Christians, those who have experienced only the first baptism, water baptism for repentance and salvation, will not survive the tribulation. It's a setup. Only those who have made it to the inner court by receiving the second baptism, the baptism of the Holy Spirit, will survive. Listen, my Pentecostal friends, be careful about what you're teaching people, because you were taught this. Somebody had an agenda. It was a setup, folks. It was setting you up because you said, well, I got saved and baptized, but then I got baptized in the Holy Ghost. And you think that's it, but it wasn't. It was a setup. Just like contemporary Christian music in the 70s and 80s. It was a setup. What was it set up for? Getting churches to play AC/DC in their church. Okay? But those who have received the third baptism, the baptism of fire and holiness, will do great exploits as sons of the kingdom. Bob Jones calls it the third baptism. John G. Lake called it the union, look at this, the union experience with God. And John Paul Jackson calls it stage 3 spirituality. In the tabernacle of Moses, the Holy of Holies was also called the tabernacle of witness. That was because what happened there proved the existence of God. Those that attain stage 3 spirituality become the abode of God, a tabernacle of wilderness. They exude God. They radiate the presence of God and change the environment around them. Then here we have the setup here, from an escapist rapture mentality to a warfare kingdom mentality. In other words, they're telling you, you stupid people that believe in the translation of the church, like God said was going to happen. Quit believing that, because we're going to be part of the kingdom, but you need to be baptized. In this third baptism, you need this unique DNA injected into you. That's what it's setting up. We're entering a period when the veil between the natural and the supernatural realms is becoming very thin. I want to stop right there. Take a look at this picture. Okay? That's Halloween. You know what Halloween is? In Mexico, it's Dia de la Muerta. Did I get my Spanish right? Dia de la Muerta. Day of the Dead. And in their lore and their superstition, it's the day when the veil between the living and the dead world, the supernatural world, is thinnest and people can pass through. That's what they were talking about. Okay? So let's go back here to Revelation chapter 9. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. Going back to what was said in this article, it says the door is open to come up here and pass back and forth between the spiritual and physical planes of existence. Portals are being opened. Portals are being opened. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. We live in some interesting times, people. I hope you're ready. I hope you're prepared. I started out the broadcast by saying I'm a sinner saved by grace. That's all I am. I'm not anything else beyond that. I'm a sinner, and I'm saved by the grace of God. You also are a sinner. The question is, are you saved by the grace of God? Are you born again? And I'm telling you, if you don't believe this Bible, and believe this Bible was written for you and to you. I mean everything in this Bible. Don't give me this nonsense about, parts of it are only to Israel, and parts of, there's only a few things in it for me. I'm telling you, this Bible, this whole thing is for you. You'll do well to take heed to it, my friend, because if you're not saved and you're not born again, you're running out of time. You're running out of time. Okay? I don't know when it's going to be, don't know how soon it's going to be, but you are running out of time. Get your heart right with God, or you'll be in line to receive a mark on your right hand or forehead. Oh, it's good to be back here today. Remember our books. If you don't have our books, we can get you our books. Alicia's making books right now. We have By Divine Order and the King James Code. These both deal with Scripture numerics and Bible prophecy. We also have a reprint of Alexander Hislop's Two Babylons. Great book if you want to understand, if you want to get a basis of what symbols mean and things like that. And then we have the Babel Conspiracy and video that goes with it. Get in contact with our ministry. We'll send it out to you. This week is the last week of the month. We'll be working on our Watchers packets the week after that. And we got a dear family, some friends of ours coming down from New York to help us out with that. God bless them, and we appreciate that. But anyway, if you want to get on our Watchers list, that basically is once a month we send out all of our DVDs, all of these Watchman broadcasts, and any special video that we do, we send that out to people. And all we ask, we do that on a monthly basis. It's like a recurring subscription thing, and all we ask is a donation of any amount to help us with our expenses. It is costing us quite a bit, and everything, I promise you, everything that you put into this goes right back into it, does not go into my pocket. I get paid by the church, and I'm happy with that, and Mama and my wife's happy with it, and Mama's happy, everybody's happy. All right, so I'm happy. But anyway, if you want to get on our Watchers list, just email, call, or write us and say, hey, Pastor Mike went on the Watchers list. Here's what I can do to help out. and I appreciate it. If you give a little more than what you think it's worth, we'll take it, because there's some who can't give anything at all. And I love giving it to them. We're feeding this into some African nations, some Bible institutes in Africa. Been getting invitations to go to Africa, and so we're reaching into those areas. And anything you do to help us out, listen, you're feeding some hungry people in some countries that you've never been to. Listen, I know guys get on here and they make statements like this all the time. It's so that you can send them more money and make them rich. But I promise you, I don't get any money out of this ministry. Okay, I promise you, I don't. It goes right back into the ministry, and we appreciate everything that everybody does. God just made me this way. God made me, and it's not a boast, because I'm a lot of other things too that I'm not proud of and I won't talk about. But God made me somebody that I don't really care about money. I know it takes money to do things, but I don't really care. That's not what I want. What I want is for you and your family to be saved. What I want is for your marriage to stay together. What I want is for your kids to grow up knowing the Lord and knowing the Bible. What I want is for somebody that's lost to be saved. What I want is for someone who's been reading out of an NIV all of a sudden say, you know what, that's the wrong Bible, I want to get me a King James. That's what I want. Okay? So take our videos, pass them around, give them to people, plant seeds, do what you can, pray for us, pray for our ministry. The devil's been pounding me this week, and I think I've gotten victory today, and I thank God for that. But keep us in your prayers. I love you. I like hearing from you. I like phone calls. I may not have all the time in the world to give you, but I don't mind you calling. I don't mind you emailing. And just please bear with me and be patient. All right? God bless you. This is Pastor Mike. We'll see you in the next Pure Bible Study. By the way, you noticed my pink shirt today. Okay? I'm very content with my masculinity. So the pink is the new white. All right? God bless you. Bye-bye.